Radio Rahim here with Adam Smith, the voice and face of boxing here in the UK, bar none. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
How are you?
I'm fantastic, and obviously, again, thanks for welcoming me over.
Listen, it's great to have you here. It's you know, it's a big picture now in Britain, and I think you know, Anthony Joshua is raising the bar. He's the flag bearer, I guess, now for the sport. If Mayweather has retired, I think that there's no better face than Anthony Joshua to take the sport forward. We're just lucky that, you know, he's from London and that he's British and he's such a nice guy. I mean, look at him. You know, he mixes with the fans. He does what he needs to do in the ring, and he's just a great guy. He's a terrific ambassador. I think the word that people, or the phrase that people are coming up with now, he's the poster boy. He's the poster boy of sport, and I think, you know, the screams of some of the girls tonight, you know, it's like Beatlemania a little bit, isn't it?
Are you sure they weren't all for him? There was somewhere for you, maybe?
I don't think there was any for me, and there was even less for Eddie. But you know what, Anthony? You know, I look at my family, right? My wife likes Anthony Joshua. My kids like Anthony Joshua, my boy and my two girls. The girls think he's pretty. My boy wants to be like him. You know, there's all this. And my mum loves him. You know, I think that everybody wants to be around Anthony. And I think that's great. You know, he's just a terrific sportsman. He's a great role model for the kids. And he's exciting to watch in a ring, you know. And I think as well, there's a little vulnerability about him in the ring. With Dylan White, we've seen with, obviously, he was a punch or two away against Vladimir Klitschko from it all going pear-shaped, all going wrong. You know, he nearly gassed out, didn't he, after he thought he had him in the 5th and 6th round. But, you know, he showed that resolve to come back. And I think that really relates to the British mentality. You know, we love an underdog. We love something that goes wrong and you come out of it the other side. And I think that fight, that one night, really has elevated him to a new platform.
You know, since I've been coming over covering these fights, I started with Joshua, and I've watched this rise, not only for him as an individual, but as you say, for British boxing itself. Americans are becoming more interested in it. There seems to be a bridge being built. What would you say is that the English fighter has to offer, the English boxing community has to offer the global sport? The Americans who are starting to get interested in these names because they see him on the undercard as Joshua fights, they're being introduced by Eddie Hearn, Sky Sports is everywhere. What is it that the culture of boxing here has to impart on the other continents?
I think success breeds success. You know, when I started at Sky, it was sort of the end of the Eubank era, and Nigel Benn was just finishing, Steve Collins, you know. Obviously worldwide you had Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Holyfield, you had the whole heavyweight era there. But, you know, there's waves and there's cycles in boxing, and I think the Olympics are a lot to do with it. I think London 2012 was fantastic because there was a real team, Team GB. You know, you had the likes of Anthony Joshua and Luke Campbell and Nicola Adams and Savannah Marshall and Anthony Ogogo and all these guys and girls who could speak well. They were put through a sort of program in Sheffield with the best facilities, not just in boxing terms but in communication. And I think they lit the Olympics up. Katie Taylor was amazing for Ireland. And then what it did was it inspired the kids to get into the gyms. And I think what you're seeing now is the next phase, the Joshua Boatzis, the Josh Kellys, the Joe Cordinas, the Anthony Fowlers, the Rio lot, you know, that lot of Olympians. And maybe they didn't quite have the success. Joe Joyce medal, so did Nicola Adams, and also Boatsi, who was a big success. Some of them didn't. Cordina didn't, Coley didn't, Anthony Fowler. But, you know, they've got a real chance because Joshua's leading the way and they need a supporting cast. And I think that's what it is. I think we had a time where it was all happening in Sheffield with Nassim Hamed and Ryan Rose and Johnny Nelson and Junior Witter. Then it was Manchester with Hatton and Anthony Farnell and Michael Gomez. And now it's London. You know, it's a real base now, London. You've got Anthony Joshua, you've got Joshua Boatsi, you've got Lawrence Okoli. You know, there's a whole new breed coming up through London. And the gyms, everyone's getting excited. And I think the women as well, you know, seeing the likes of Nicola and Katie and Savannah are encouraging the girls to go about the boxing gyms now. So I think all of that is good. Plus, the big thing about Britain is the atmosphere. And I think that, you know, you're getting the music, you're getting the lights, you're getting the entertainment, you're getting crowds of 90,000 at Wembley, 75,000 in Cardiff. That's unprecedented. So I think that's another big lure for the Americans to come over. And you see, the Americans didn't take too kindly to the Klitschko era. You know, I think they got a bit bored. They stayed in Germany, and they were very great. They were great athletes, but robotic, I guess, in style. Maybe the personalities didn't really resonate in America, and I think a lot of the American heavyweights sort of, just went through a lull, more into American football and basketball, more sportsmen going through those careers, and I think they needed somebody, and I think AJ has provided that, and I think he'll go and fight in America. I think with Deontay Wilder as well over your side of the pond, I think there's some really interesting fights to be made. Tyson Fury could come back. It's great to have the heavyweight division thriving again, but I think that we're showing here that we can put on massive events in England, in Britain. So another one's in Wales on Saturday night.
And lastly, along that line, you sold these tickets out again in an amazing short period of time. We're here in Cardiff. This isn't London. It's not a ton of people that are just here buying up those tickets. People are traveling here. I traveled here to see this fight. What would it be that you say, for instance, in America, a lot of promoters and journalists like myself, we debate all the time, the level of support that the fans give you here, the level of enthusiasm they have in boxing, not just for AJ, even before AJ, well before Ricky AJ. Hatton. Right. They come for the undercard. They stay for the entire event. They watch it on television. They pony up for the pay-per-view. What is it about boxing here that you think separates you from the rest of the world that the fan base, I would say, is unmatched?
Maybe it's that we're a smaller unit over here on the UK. We're an island, and I think that you get the access to boxers is second to none. We're really lucky. If I wanted Anthony or David Hay or Tony Bellew or any number of them to come into Sky next week, I can probably get them. And I think that access, we don't really get that in football, obviously our national sport. You can't get Wayne Rooney and Steven Gerrard and Messi and Ronaldo. You can't just sort of get them all around a table. You got to go through the agents, you got to go through the promoters, all that sort of stuff. And I think with the boxers, you get great access. And I think because Ricky Hatton was the guy next door who, selling out the Manchester Arena to 15, then 20, 22,000 people, he knew half the people in there, or they'd all had a drink with him or something. I think there was they really related to him. Then Carl Froch the same, he had that Nottingham Fortress. And I think that because they get the access, and you see with Anthony tonight, I don't even think he's left yet. He's been doing this for an hour, going around, having selfies with the fans. He does that after he fights, I'm liking this a little bit, Rahim, to the Mike Tyson era, not because of the similarities with Tyson and Joshua in personality. Tyson was a fighting menace. He was broody and mean, and he was all about intimidation and the entourage and not being accessible. Whereas Anthony is the antithesis of that. He wants to be accessible. He wants to be feet down on the ground. I'm trying. I'm not great, but I'm trying. That stay hungry mantle. And I think, but the similarity is that AJ's now in that position where he can go, and if he defends this title 3, 4, 5, 6 times more, it's going to get that Tyson sort of momentum, the fact that people are going to want to be everywhere. You've come to Wales, whether it's New York next, or it's Dubai, or it's Scotland, or whoever it is, there's going to be another 50, 60,000 wanting to be there. And I think that momentum and that role will happen because AJ is down to earth and because he excites in the ring.
Well, that mentality has served me well. I always appreciate the fact that you open the doors, you're willing to let journalists like myself come in, report on the sport. Like you say, access is very important, and you've granted it to us once again. Always a pleasure to speak to none other than Adam Smith of Sky Sports. Great to see you again.